Hi, my dearest family. So today I wanted to make another video in regards to Horary questions, and this is going to be work related. Now, I've explained a couple of basic things in the previous video, so I recommend visiting that video, revisiting that video, because I'm not going to repeat myself on certain things. So I want to make this video short, but very practical so that you can erect a chart for yourself as well. And you can start looking at whether you're going to get the job or is your job going to come to an end very soon and so forth. So I'm going to share the screen. Oh, and by the way, if you would like to learn a little bit more Horary Astrology, then I have got a group called Horary Astrology with Victor on Facebook, and then we analyze charts there every single day. You can bring your own question as well. Just please ensure that you read the group rules. So, what are we doing with job-related questions? So, there is going to be three types of questions. So let's imagine that this is going to be the chart. Remember that you always erect the chart for the moment of the question. And idealistically speaking, the question should be understood by the astrologer, and the astrologer will erect the chart for you. But of course, you want to practice so you can erect your chart for yourself, and then you can start working around with that. So we're going to be looking at four types of possible job questions. The first one is, will I get the job? What you want to be doing with that, you want to be looking at the 10th house, because the most important part of Horary astrology is to pick the right significators. So, firstly, you're going to pick the 10th house because that's going to be representing the possible job offer. Now, it doesn't matter whether we are talking about a future job that you are going to be applying for, or it's an interview related question and so forth. It's going to be the 10th house, no matter what. And the first house is going to be the querent, the person who is asking the question. You're going to have to look at the seventh house as well. The reason why we need to be looking at the seventh house is because the seventh house represents your competitors. So you're going to pick the 10th house ruler. In this chart, that's going to be Venus. Remember, we always use Regiomontanus house system with horary charts. So Venus is going to be the ruler of the 10th house cusp. You want to go onto the Venus line on your essential dignity table, and you want to look at how much Venus adores Saturn and how much Venus adores the moon. Because if Venus likes the moon more than you, then most likely you know where the interview is going to go, right? The competitor will get the job, or the competitor is going to get selected for the next round, and so forth. So I'm looking at Venus here, and Venus puts Saturn, unfortunately, into detriment. So it's kind of like a rejection and a refusal. And secondly, Venus is very neutral towards Moon. So there is no basically admiration towards Moon either. But it's better to have no admiration than to get rejected, in my opinion. So the Moon is pretty much the winner here so far. Next one, remember, they might like you at the interview, but it does not mean you're gonna get the job. So you would need an aspect as well, which means that if I am represented by Saturn and the job is represented by Venus, we must have an aspect. So I'm looking at, let's suppose that Venus loves Saturn. So I'm looking at where Venus is. It's on 15 degree and Saturn is on 2 degree of Pisces. There is no major aspect between them two. No mutual reception, no aspect either. So you can take it for granted that this job is not going to be yours, unfortunately, unless you change the circumstances. So I'm going to look at another example. This was not a job-related question anyway. So I don't know. I'm going to look at this job offer. or job free, whatever the question is here. So let me just set the house systems because that needs to be Regiomontanus. And I'm looking at the job here is represented by Mercury, the querent is represented by Jupiter, and the competitor is represented by Mercury. Okay, so the fact that the competitor and the job is Mercury, it already tells you that somehow they are pulling towards the competitor already. Okay, but let's see if that Mercury adores Jupiter or not. So Mercury, when I go onto the Mercury line, unfortunately, Jupiter does not pop up there, but neither Mercury. But the fact that Mercury represents both the competitor and the job, I would say that unfortunately, the competitor has got a bigger chance to get that. Of course, when the job and the competitor is represented by the same planet, you will not be able to look at the aspects. So there, the mutual reception is going to decide. The more they like you, the more chance you have to get the job. So if Mercury liked, for example, Jupiter by rulership, because if you went onto the Mercury line and then you would look at the ruling planet, which would be Jupiter, it means that Mercury must be in the sign of Pisces or Sagittarius to be liked by rulership, then you have got great chances and maybe you can get away without aspect as well. Up to exaltation, you might be able to get away without aspect. But from triplicity onwards, I would say that we always need an aspect to be able to give a definite yes or a no. Okay, so this is type 1 question in regards to jobs. The second type often comes from clients, shall I stay or shall I go? So basically, the question is, shall I stay at the current workplace or shall I go to the new workplace? What are we going to do with those type of charts? Now, the current workplace is always going to be the 6th house, and the new job is going to be the 10th house. So, of course, in these type of questions, you might not be looking at the competitor because I'm guessing you would only go if the other job was guaranteed. But if it's not guaranteed, then in that case, you would be looking at the 7th house as well as your competitors, like we did in the previous meta. So here, what am I going to do is, first of all, I'm going to be looking at the 6th house ruler, which is a Venus. Okay, so what you want to see here is, idealistically speaking, you want the ruler or the sign on the 6th house cusp to be fixed. Why? Because it represents that the job is actually quite secure. So I'm looking at here what is happening, and we've got Taurus on the sign, on the cusp. So that's a fixed sign. So that would represent, you know what, this is a stable job. It doesn't mean that, unfortunately, it's a good job as well. It's just stable. And I'm going to be looking at where Venus is, and Venus is right actually on the midheaven in a mutable sign. Virgo is kind of like the sign of slavery. So this would show that maybe the person is not necessarily satisfied with the fact that they have to work extremely hard, maybe not for not enough money though. Okay, so so the 6th house is okay, you know, but I'm looking at Venus. It has got triplicity, turn, and face as well. So, but then it goes into fall. Now, this is what we call as mixed dignities. So this job started extremely strong. It had so much potential, but then later on, it goes into fall, which indicates that this job is going to crumble. So how can I imagine such a situation, for example, in the real world? Imagine that, for example, I'm going to give you an example with McDonald's, right? So imagine that McDonald's goes extremely well, and then they are increasing their venue every single year, every single quota, and so forth. But then we have got a supersize me coming in. And then it destroys the business. And all of a sudden, the sales starts dropping by 30, 40% month on month. So this is the type of situation what the with the mixed dignities represents. Something starts well, and then it goes into a little bit of a rocky moment. Now, when I'm looking at the new job, which is represented by Mercury, you would do the same thing. So how stable that job is, and also how good. The higher the essential dignity taper, the more secure, the better the job is. So Mercury, unfortunately, it's a called peregrine planet. Peregrine means that it has no essential dignity at all. And then if I look at where Mercury is by house position, it is placed actually in the 10th house. We call these situations as the thief planets. Thief planet is when a planet is peregrine and in an angular house. So, thief planet, what it indicates is waste of time, waste of money, or waste of effort. So, this clearly tells us not to go for the new job. Okay? Mercury, on top of that, is actually retrograde. Now, I'm really trying to simplify things for you here. Okay, so there is a lot more to check, but of course, we have no time to go through every single step of these. So if you are interested in Horary Astrology and then you want to learn more about it, then you know what? Put something down in the comment box below that I'm interested in learning Horary, and then I can put together a course for you. If there are minimum 10 people, I cannot take on more than 10 people with Horary charts because this is very practical class, and I would need to be practicing at least 1 hour each time with everyone. So no way that we would be able to do more than 10 people. The last time I was teaching Horary, I think I had about 8 or 9 groups running at the same time. So people were really interested in that. Okay, so we compared Mercury and Venus. The current job looks a lot better than the future job, the future offer. So I would recommend the client to stay put or to start looking for a possible new job. One more thing you can compare here, and that would be the salary. Now, the current salary would be the 7th house. The reason is because the current job is the 6th, second from the 6th is the 7th house. So the 7th house would represent your current salary, and the 11th house would represent the future salary. So you can compare those as well, okay? So clearly with the new job, and I'm looking at Mercury, well, Mercury is peregrine again, so that would show that, you know what, they're making you work like a donkey, unfortunately, but at least it's a stable job. So it's slightly bit better than the other one. And the other salary would be Venus. And Venus, again, has some initial dignities, but it goes into fall. So this could indicate that at the beginning, they might tell you that I'm going to be paying you, I don't know, a certain amount of money. But then in the end, unfortunately, that's not going to happen. Imagine a situation when you work with commissions, for example. This is a question I would be asking from my client. Would you be on commission? Is it what they promise? How often can they change that commission scheme and so forth? Because this fall, mixed dignity would represent that eventually they will change that. Okay, third type of question. Am I going to get dismissed? Or, is the company going to go busted? Well, actually, that's a different way how we should check. So, am I going to get dismissed? The end of matters in Horary is the 4th house. So, if there is a question whether you're going to get dismissed, you need aspect. So, you would check if L1 and L4 are about to meet, or L10 and L4 are about to meet. Basically, that's the rule here. So I would be checking if Mercury and Jupiter are about to make an aspect. And here we are talking about applying aspects. So I'm looking at Mercury. Mercury is on 7 degree of Libra, and Jupiter is on 5 degree of Aries. So actually they are opposing each other, right? And it's an applying opposition as well, because Mercury is moving backwards and it's a faster planet than Jupiter. So it's going to make an opposition to Jupiter once more, even though Jupiter is a retrograde, but Mercury is going to catch up. So my answer to that question would be that yes, most likely you will get dismissed or you are going to resign. But a job is coming to an end. So guys, this is the job-related questions, typically which I get from clients. If you are interested in any of my services, go on my website and check out, for example, the Horary reading types, because it is fabulous and it can really give you very specific answers to very specific questions. Thank you very much. See you soon. Bye-bye.